done all of this score study, this selection of music. We're feeling very confident and very good about our own musical concept. And now we get to the point where we have to make decisions about our own gestures and get those gestures to match as closely as possible the kind of sound that we want to come from an ensemble. Obviously, there are a limitless number of sounds that we can elicit from a group of musicians, and being as specific as we possibly can really helps that. Let's explore the extremes of this a little bit, and then maybe we can work our way toward the center of some of those gestures in what we might even call hybrid gestures. By way of example, let's think about the Allegretto movement of the Beethoven 7th Symphony. This is a really terrific example for a bunch of reasons. It runs the gamut in terms of stylistic performance practice from the various instruments. And its original instrumentation, we have pizzicato strings. We also have these really lovely, lush, long tune lines that go on in that movement. So there's the opportunity to do an awful lot of things. So let's think about this underlying motive that's in this movement. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. So obviously this is performed in lower instruments, and it's got a certain bouncing quality about that. So when we prepare this music, we want to have that bouncy quality in the beginning, in the preparatory gesture. Well, how do we do that? We put a little bit of energy into the start of the motion. So before, we were looking at very smooth sorts of motion. Here, it's almost as if we're on a springboard coming away from that first position and then returning to the very first sound. So it might look something like this. Bum. So again, look, we've got a little bit of a bounce to the front of the baton. I'm letting my fingers open up to open the sound and then returning to that same point in space. Bum, 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 bum. So we're noticing the baton now has a little bit of bounce, a little bit of life to it. So we know from our musical decision making that we want sort of a bouncy, a little more pointed quality to it. So we're looking for a gesture that's bouncy and has some point to it. And that's not really a difficult thing to do. Don't overanalyze this. A gesture that has point, we'll let it have just a little bit of point. And bounciness just means coming away from that point. If I stop, there's no bounce. That's compressed sound with no resonance. But if I bounce, 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 and by bouncing, I just let the baton keep on moving after that moment, we've got that resonance of sound that we want. So that's one way of coming at the underlying part of this music. Now let's think a little bit about a longer line tune that goes on here. And let's go just that far. So rather than having this bouncing motion, we now want a motion that shows line to these musicians, sustain of sound. And when we show line, we of course need to show where is it going from the beginning of the line to the end of the line. So we might have something like this, where we're bouncing along. We've set things up very nicely, and now we have this entrance of the line. Here is a place where I can use the left hand to show the line and the right hand to continue showing this bouncing motion. So here we go. Let's do that again, and we'll break that down. So the very first sound that we're making, I'm using the left hand to show some motion, and because I'm moving in an outward direction, I'm implying an opening up of the sound. And those first two pitches are leading to the third pitch where the moving notes are. So that might look like So I'm allowing the left hand to land and have some emphasis on those moving notes. And then finally, we have the music coming away, and the left hand retreats. So altogether, again, that might look something like this. and let the hand come back to imply the retreat of the music. Now let's put it together with the beats in the right hand and see if we can make some musical sense out of all of this. So again, underlying, bouncing, pizzicato music to begin all of this. And then here's the line. And then we go on, obviously, with the next part of the line. So what we're doing here is cultivating the ability to move independently in the two hands, keeping time and keeping a particular style in the right hand and indicating something about musical line in the left hand.